children.
Hello, Edward.
Hello, Murdoch. One bright morning, Edward was happily taking on water at his station. He was just finishing his drink when he heard a shrill whistle and loud puffing in the distance. What's that? He thought. He soon got his answer as poor Percy stopped at the platform. He was red in the face and exhausted. Percy, what are you doing here? Asked Edward. James, burst his cylinder at the big station. I was shunting at the time until I was ordered to take his local, explained Percy breathlessly. I've been trying to keep to time, but mainline trains are much heavier than branch line ones. Edward smiled. Tell you what, I'll take the train on for you if you do my shunting here. Are you sure? Don't you have your own trains to take? Not for another little while anyway. I'll be back in time to take it, if I'm quick, said Edward confidently. So the necessary arrangements were made. Percy was taken off the train, and Edward took his place. The guards soon blew their whistle, and Edward puffed away. Edward made good speed along the main line. The coaches ran along happily, and the passengers were very pleased. How are we doing for time, Sid? Asked the driver. I've forgotten my pocket watch at home. The fireman flicked his wrist and checked his silver watch. Doing all right. Plenty of time, smiled the fireman. Then, Edward hit a bump on the tracks. Oh! Peeped Edward in surprise. Edward's fireman was so surprised that he fell backwards onto the coal pile in the tender. Blimey, are you all right? Asked the driver, helping the fireman up. I'm all right. Not the first time I've been covered in coal. The fireman then picked up his shovel and continued throwing coal into Edward's firebox. Soon they arrived at a station. Edward slowed to a halt at the platform and let off steam. The driver turned on Edward's ejector, while the fireman wiped his face. Hang on, where's me watch? The fireman asked, his wrists now bare. The two men looked about the cab floor for the watch, but had no luck. Then the driver had a thought. I've a nasty feeling it's in there, he said, pointing to the pile of coal in Edward's tender. We'll never find it now. My missus won't be pleased, sighed the fireman. Edward felt sorry for his fireman. He was about to reassure him when he heard both men groan. There, sitting half-melted in Edward's firebox, was Sid's silver watch. I must have shoveled it in while it was lost in the coal, muttered the fireman. Now we've no way of keeping track of the time, the driver said. Yes, we do, peeped Edward. All the stations have clocks on the walls. We can keep an eye on them when we arrive and depart. They were all in agreement. The train departed the station on time, and Edward was determined to keep it that way. However, as they made their way along, they ran into some delays. They had to wait for a late connection at the next station. Then they were held up at a signal further on, and to top it all off, one of the coach's axles ran hot. They had to wait at the station till it was cool before they could continue. Each time they stopped at a station, Edward and his crew lost more and more time. At last, they reached their final stop. Edward left the coaches in a siding and he hurried back to his station. One late train is bad enough. I mustn't be late for the second, Edward puffed as he made his way along the line. Soon, his station came into sight. Edward squinted. There seemed to be something at the platform. Are those my coaches? He said. Indeed they were. And sitting in the nearby siding was Percy, who had a broad smile on his smokebox. Oh, Percy, thank you, said Edward with relief. Never mind the thanks. Go get turned around. Your train is due out in 5 minutes, chuckled Percy. Edward's train ran with no delays whatsoever. He reached the stations on time and in some cases early. A few days later, Edward was tidying trucks once again in his yard when the fat controller came to see him. Thank you for filling in for James and Percy, Edward. I am truly blessed to have an engine as kind and hard-working as you in my railway, said the fat controller warmly. Edward blushed and grinned. It's no trouble at all, sir. Happy to help. All the same, I'll make arrangements for you to have a new coat of paint, winked the fat controller. He then strolled over to Edward's cab. Here you are, Mr. Heaver. The fat controller handed Edward's fireman a small box with a ribbon on it. The fireman opened it and chuckled. It was a brand new watch. Oh, thank you, sir. That's very kind of you. Think nothing of it. I was quite, alarmed to hear Edward had used your watch for coal, smirked the VAT controller. There was a hearty chuckle between the crew, the controller, and Ed.